Hey, record loving friends, this is Brian from tokyorecordstyle. If you're new to the channel, tokyorecordstyle is a project where I photograph people on the streets of Tokyo carrying record store bags. I spot them and I chat them up, ask them if they bought some records, have a conversation with them about music, take a few portraits of them, and then go back to my house, catalog the music that I photographed, listen to it, and write little sort of Humans of New York-esque stories about them. So I'm going to read you a couple of stories that I wrote back in December of 2022. This is a little over a year ago. I'm going through the list here. I've photographed some 250 plus people in a year and a half. So this is Yukiko, a kind of a short one. This was before I was writing a little bit longer pieces, but anyway. Here's Yukiko. Hi, Yukiko. I take my kids back and forth every day to Japanese cram school, and I pass right by Coconut's record shop. I've mentioned it here a few times already, and will probably be mentioning it a bunch more. Since starting the project, I can't seem to drive past it without starting to scan the area for people who maybe have just scored records. Though the vinyl bags are quite cool, they're quite subtle, but I can still easily spot them from across the street, which was the case for the one Yukiko was carrying. I stopped her and chatted her up. She's an assistant director working on Japanese TV dramas and scored Tatsuro Yamashita's 1998 album Cozy on CD. We don't discriminate against CDs. On which Yukiko said the 4th track Donut song is the best. So go give that one a listen. Thanks for posing for Tokyo Record Style, Yukiko. Enjoy the CD. So that's a rather short and simple one. Shortly after that, I ran into Naohiro, this character, who has appeared in my Instagram over the years and who's quite an interesting character. He scored a handful of interesting records that I was completely unaware of, and let's get right into it. This is a perfect example of what this project hopes to accomplish. When I see characters out in Tokyo like Naohiro, pictured here, making some pronounced fashion subculture statement, embodying whatever thing it is they're into, whether that be some Nakame, Brutus boy style, or any number of slacker, hipster, prep, punk variations, or some bleached blonde hair glam relic who never left the 80s, or some industrial metal goth, as I suspected was the case here with Naohiro. Well, if they're carrying a record store bag, I always want to know what the hell they spend their hard-earned cash on. So that's what I'm doing, stopping them and asking them with genuine interest and having a ball finding out what people are listening to. And the thing is, they're all keen to share. Hey, are those records? Did you just score some records at the record store? Hell yeah, you want to see what I just scored? For sure, check it out. Anyway, I had no clue what records Naohiro was showing me, but I'll check them out and give them a listen in the coming days. All the records photographed are listed on Discogs with info in the show notes. Despite not knowing industrial, goth, metal music well, nor the waves or cores, I mentioned that my neighbor, father of my son's best pal, is part of the legendary industrial outfit Skinny Puppy. And Naohiro was quite impressed to hear that. We also discussed The Cure's, one of his favorite bands, recent re-release of Wish, which was one of the very first CDs that I ever bought as a kid, and how original pressings go for $400 these days, though Naohiro scored his copy for $20 back in the day. He also shared with me that he plays bass in a band called 13th Moon. We'll check them out. Lastly, I'll mention that Naohiro had a cool vintage bag from the British record label that has been and continues to be responsible for releasing tons of great alternative music, from Bauhaus to Bon Iver, and are credited for signing one of my all-time favorite bands, the Pixies. So thanks, Naohiro. More Tokyo Record Style on the way. Okay, I'm going to do one more from Itaru. This is Itaru, which is kind of a fun one. After I met Naohiro, I walked up the street and I bumped into this guy, Itaru, who was really, really friendly. And I was so surprised by the record that he had. So off we go. What are the odds? I caught up with Itaru coming up the street, pushing a bicycle and a tote bag on his shoulder, and asked him if he might want to pose for Tokyo Record Style. With a warm smile, he agrees, reaches into his bag, and pulls out, much to my amazement, lo and behold, Tulsa hometown hero Leon Russell, who, as legend has it, according to my parents, had a girlfriend who lived across the street from my childhood home, and who used to come around and play with me when I was just a wee kid. I only became aware of this as an adult when I was recalling a distant memory and asked my dad, who was that long gray-haired TV talent guy who used to come around when I was little? Was he famous or something? Oh, you mean Crazy Leon from across the street. Yeah, he did like you a lot when you were a little kid, but he wasn't on TV. He was a musician. Yeah, Dad, who was he? Now let me think. Leon, Russell. Oh yeah, that's it. Old Crazy Leon Russell. I about fell over upon hearing this. The Leon Russell? Yeah, I think he became quite famous. Became a freaking legend, Dad. Jeez. There's more to this Leon story, but many of you have probably already heard it. Feel free to ask me next time you see me. I love to tell this story. Anyway, needless to say, I was delighted to spot Leon's self-titled album with the timeless masterpiece, A Song for You, in perfect condition, replete with Japanese obi in the wild. Killer score, Itaru, who's posed for a few more photos for me with a fantastic smile and a light and friendly heart. I wasn't at all surprised when he told me he makes toys for a living. I would have liked to have heard more about it, but right then, I was suddenly surprised by another chance acquaintance. Wait for the next post. Thanks again for posing for Tokyo Record Style. I guarantee that Leon record will give you many years of enjoyment. Until next time. So, Itaru. That was a killer find. Leon Russell, who used to live next door to me. Or whose girlfriend lived across the street. Okay, why not? We'll go for the last one. Eric Jacobson. Jacobson. The Eric Jacobson from Ego de Asobo. This guy is a talent on TV. He's a celebrity. He's an entertainer on Japanese TV. He's a kid's entertainer and was as famous as like the Mickey Mouse Club or something like this. I mean, it's quite a big deal on morning TV, weekday TV. My kids know him. We had his CDs, and he's a singer-songwriter, and he navigated his way to Japanese TV. And he was willing to help on a project that I spearheaded called Photohoku. And so we became friends, and it turns out we have a bunch of mutual friends, not only from Japan, but from back in the States. And he lived in Boulder, where I lived for a number of years. And so we had been meaning to meet and cross paths a number of times. And he spotted me on the street and chatted me up. And it was such a delight to finally run into him. He lives not far from Coconuts. So here's the story of Eric. Little did I know when I was chatting up Itaru from the previous post about Leon Russell, there was a Tokyo institution standing right behind me, patiently waiting for me to finish rambling to say hello. If you've had kids in the last 30 years, you probably are familiar with the very famous TV show Ego de Asobo, Let's Play English, which is like Sesame Street and has a bit of a rotating cast of characters with a few major mainstays. And the person featured here has been the mainstay of the series and beyond for as long as I've known it. Ego de Asobo is synonymous with Eric Jacobson, or as we call him at my house, Eric de Asobo. A few years ago, a Boulder friend of mine from the Dots Diner family, the ridiculously talented musician behind the bands Thinking Plague, Hamster Theater, and Lord knows probably a dozen other bands, the enigmatic Dave Willie and I were speaking about Japan, and he mentioned a musical friend of his in Tokyo that I might know. Eric, I think he's on TV. And I was like, the Eric? Eric de Asobo? Of course I know Eric. Who doesn't? Long story short, next thing I know, I'm chatting with him on Facebook, a little starstruck, trying to get some Photohoku volunteer photo collaboration connection going a few years back. But we've stayed connected online, but never met in person. Yesterday, he runs into me on the street and recognizes me. We chat for 15 minutes before he invites me to his home, and the next thing I know is we're finding out that we both lived in Boulder, both went to CU, both know the same people and places, and I just have an absolute hoot talking to him. Frankly speaking, a big inspiration to me. Eric has used his creative talents and navigated his way to some pretty high notoriety and success. He's one of the few well-known, beloved foreigners who carved out a cool niche in the public eye. And besides all the kids and TV stuff, he makes music for big kids like me. And he gifted me a few CDs which I'm really looking forward to listening to. During the pandemic, Eric wrote one of the most beautiful songs that I have ever heard called Weeping Willow. It's just a little simple kind of hymnal, but it's so full of emotion and story that it transcends its own simplicity. Like a bridge over troubled water, or like a Shel Silverstein poem. I'll add the YouTube link in the comments, and grab it when you can. Eric, thanks for the hang. Great to finally meet you. So those are 3 characters that I've met from Tokyo Record Style: Yukiko, Itaru, and Eric. 3 of the 250 people that have made the project really worthwhile and really fun. This has been the best way to make new friends and discover new music, and I really appreciate you coming along with me and supporting and encouraging me along, because I think, we're all getting off and leveling up our music knowledge and appreciation by finding out what the human algorithm really is out there. So thanks again for indulging me in another video. Until next time, I will see you at the record store.